Neil Hamilton.
Well, I thought that the Cabinet Secretary for Finance made a powerful unionist case for this legislative consent motion. And of course I understand where Plaid Cymru are coming from. They don't believe in the United Kingdom. So they therefore take the maximalist view that has been expressed. And Plaid are quite right to make the points that they have made with the force and vigour that we've come to accept. If I took their view of what nationalism meant for Wales, I would agree with them, but I don't. I'm a unionist, and I accept the fundamental reality, which was referred to by David Melding in his speech, that this EU withdrawal bill is consequent upon a decision of the people of the United Kingdom by referendum to leave the United Kingdom. And I believe it's a trust that's been handed to us as legislators to deliver on the decision that they made. And it is not for one constituent part of the United Kingdom to frustrate that process. Even in Scotland, where 62% voted against Brexit, I don't believe it is constitutionally proper for them to stand in the way of the passage of the bill. I believe that the Welsh Government has played an extremely good hand in the course of the negotiations. And there's been, I think, a deepening of the whole devolution process, a deepening of understanding of the constitutional processes which were set in train 20 years ago. And I do believe it's regrettable that the United Kingdom government was so far behind the tide of events in this respect that the whole argument about Clause 11, as was allowed to develop as it did. I thought it showed a sort of shocking failure of understanding on the part of UK ministers of the constitutional realities of modern life in Britain, and that's highly regrettable. I believe also that Plaid Cymru have been quite right to draw attention to the deficiencies of the leader of the Labour Party in the United Kingdom in the course of the last few days, because what's happening in Scotland is that he is playing party games with the future of the United Kingdom, and I believe that that is a fundamentally irresponsible approach. And I'm sorry to have to say this, but I believe the grown-up and mature approach which we've had from ministers in the Welsh Government shows how unfitted the leader of the party in the United Kingdom is for the office to which he aspires. Now, I'll say at once that I've got no more trust in Theresa May than Plaid Cymru have. You know, she makes Ethelred the Unready look like a model of decisiveness, and I wouldn't trust her word, not because I think she's a dishonest person, but I think that she is so hopelessly incompetent that she could make the opposite happen by accident. And I do believe that for a Remainer to show her colours in the way that she has done over the last few weeks over the absurd proposal of some kind of a customs union which isn't even on the table and which nobody on either side of the argument over Brexit is prepared to give the time of day to, shows the problems that we're dealing with. But the fundamental reality is that we in this Assembly do not exercise any of the powers which are going to be affected by this bill at the moment. The fundamental reality is that these powers are exercised by bodies which are far from Cardiff and over which we have no practical control, whether it's the European Commission, which has the power to legislate in itself without any democratic control by the Council of Ministers. There's a huge corpus of EU regulation which simply spews out of the Commission and is rubber-stamped on the spot. We will now have the opportunity to participate in the democratisation of huge portions of technical legislation in areas such as agriculture and the environment in particular, which are of great importance to us here in Wales. This whole process is a massive enlargement of the democratic process and an extension in practical terms of the powers of this Assembly. And I think that is hugely important. And this is why I can't understand the paradox of the Plaid Cymru position, that they regard a power grab by Westminster of constitutional tools and legislative tools which currently we don't even possess to be of fundamental importance, but they show absolutely no fear at all of handing those over to a body based in Brussels or elsewhere in the European Union, where we have even less control over what goes on than we do at Westminster. So that seems to me to be, in practical terms, a most unsupportable position to hold. If Wales were an independent country politically, then their points would have some force. But as we are not, and the Welsh people don't show any great predisposition to adopt the Plaid Cymru position on Wales's role within the United Kingdom, and is not likely to in the foreseeable future, I think the arguments that Plaid are advancing here are very, very far from being in the world of reality. So, consequently, I think it is very important that we do pass this legislative consent motion today, not just because it gives us the scope for increasing the powers of this Assembly, but as part and parcel of this process, and I'm not sure that this point has been drawn out today, although it has on previous occasions when we debated this topic. Actually, England is restricted now in many ways that it wasn't before as a result of this agreement, and that gives us the greatest possible assurance that the United Kingdom government will want to conclude this transitionary period as quickly as it can, because I don't believe that the United Kingdom government does want to have the legislative power for Wales in these devolved areas, and that we can, I think, be as confident as we possibly can, even though I accept that this is not something which the I's have been dotted and the T's crossed in legal form. I think it's inconceivable almost that the United Kingdom government would want to resile at this stage from the devolution settlement, and as Mick Anthony pointed out in response to Di Lloyd earlier on, there would be a fundamental constitutional crisis of great importance, where I think you would find that across this chamber there would be, to all intents and purposes, unanimity in opposing such a venture. And therefore, I don't believe personally there is any constitutional risk in allowing this legislative consent motion to proceed. I believe there's every constitutional advantage and practical advantage for the people of Wales in doing so.